During my trip to Vietnam, I bought tarot decks, met a Vietnamese tarot tuber, and kept up with my homemade mini travel journal. Ah, isn't it so cute? I went to Vietnam for 2 weeks with my partner and his family. I found the trip so fulfilling, and I kept up with my mini homemade travel journal the whole time. So I wanted to share the journal, then I'll share a recap of my 2 weeks there, including some highlights and some clips and photos. And lastly, I'll share some things that I bought. Here is a teaser of 2 of the tarot decks, well, the 2 tarot decks that I got in Vietnam. This one's upside down, but we'll talk more about these later. So first, let's talk about this mini journal. This journal is actually made from a junk mail envelope, like literally one of these junk mail envelopes. Basically, you just take the envelope and you cut it to size. I took like regular letter size college ruled paper, cut it in half to make the pages, and then sewed the pages into this book. Every day, or almost every day, I filled out not only what I did, but how I felt. It felt important to me this time around to really process as I'm going through each day, instead of letting it fly by and I kind of forget how I felt and what I did at the end of the trip. So having this log, this mini diary, was a great reminder for me that when I live life, the goal is not to be happy all the time, 100% of the time. I am okay even if I experience discomfort. I am okay even if I experience like non-ideal days or moments or hours. I'm so happy that I created it, that I found a use for it. It just feels so special holding this in my hand. I am flying out of state again a couple more times this year, so I am excited to create more of these travel journals and have more memories to keep along with me. Next, I want to share the recap, share more details about my Vietnam experience. So the structure of our Vietnam trip this time was different from the structure of our trip 2 years ago. The previous trip, we took a tour for the middle 8 days of that 2-week trip, basically road tripping to different cities across North Vietnam for all of like 8 days. I was so tired and grumpy. Every day we had to wake up at 6 or 7 a.m. to eat breakfast, check out of the hotel, and then get onto the tour bus to get into the next spot. We were spending 3 to 7 hours per day on the road getting to the next location. The structure of this trip was different because we had our home base in Andy's cousin's place in Bình Dương, which is an hour outside of the city of Saigon. We spent 3 days in Phu Quoc, which is like an island off the coast of Vietnam. Then we would go back to Bình Dương to rest for a day. Then we would spend 3 days in Đà Lạt, which is a city closer to the central part of Vietnam. Then back to Bình Dương to rest for another day. And then we went to Saigon, the main city, for another 3 days. And then back to Bình Dương for 1 more day, and then we would fly out of the airport the next day. So this 2-week trip, being broken up into chunks of like 3-4 days at a time, was so much more manageable for me, and it made the trip really interesting for me. Hey, so my mic placement was pretty off in this video, so I apologize for any scratchiness that you've heard. Unfortunately, you'll still be hearing scratchiness for the rest of this video. So sorry, now I know how to place my mic better for next time. Okay, so looking at my journal as like notes here. So our flight was from LAX to Singapore as our layover and then to Vietnam. Then the next day, early morning, we got to the airport again to fly out to the island of Phu Quoc. So my dad's family is actually from Phu Quoc. My dad and a lot of his siblings and cousins have migrated over to the US already, but my dad still has some relatives that either still live in Phu Quoc or have migrated back to Vietnam. So I got to meet one of my dad's cousins. He runs an Asian Cajun place over there called Crab House. Got to see his restaurant, meet him for pretty much like the first time. I also got to meet my cousins who run a hotel over in Phu Quoc. They also help run or manage the family graves over there. I didn't get a chance to see the graves this time though because we were on tour during our time in Phu Quoc, so there wasn't much time to deviate from the destinations that were already picked for us. So we went on a lot of different stops. We went to a pepper farm, went to a fish sauce farm. I got to stand next to fish sauce barrels and see how giant they are. It's hilarious because Andy's cousins found the smell like so bad. They were like covering their noses and mouths, but I was like, ah yes, fish sauce. I like the smell. I would be interested in coming back to do more like island-like activities, watery activities, like maybe snorkeling or scuba diving. After that, went back to Bình Dương to rest for a day. There is a local cat cafe right across the street. That day, it was super stanky. I don't know what it was. This time the cat cafe just smelled a lot and it was unfortunately really hard to bear. We played a round of exploding kittens. My Vietnamese is relatively fluent conversationally. I did have a translate app right on my home screen so that I could talk with Andy's cousins better. But Andy's cousins know a bit of English as well, so it was pretty easy to explain and play games of exploding kittens while in that cat cafe. So after a day of resting in Bình, we went on an 8-hour drive to the city of Dalat. I'm very used to the tropical, very humid and warm, hot weather of South Vietnam, but the farther north you go, the less humid it gets. It has weather that's similar to California here, where it's like a dry heat. I was surprised that I could just wear my sweatshirt, my hoodie. In Dalat, we went to the night market. It was so lively and bustling compared to other night markets I've ever experienced, aka the ones here in the US. There was also a cute tarot reader that I saw. I didn't have a chance or the energy to sit down and like ask for a reading. I went back the next night to ask for a reading, but I couldn't find that tarot reader again. I hope they're out there making good sales. The next day in Dalat, I actually needed the whole afternoon to rest. So after our morning activities going to like this farm area, I opted to just spend the rest of the afternoon in the hotel room. I was cooped up in bed reading some great books, journaling, and just enjoying more rest day. So now I know in hindsight, if I'm going to be road tripping, I need a lot of time to recover. This trip in Dalat was really short, driving 8 hours on one day, then a full day of doing stuff, but then the next day, the third day, we're already driving like 6 to 8 hours back to home base. That is just a really short time for me, and I physically can't keep up with that. After our 3-day trip in Dalat, then it was more resting at our home base. We also went to some bookstores where I saw tarot decks. It was really exciting to see these tarot decks. Granted, a lot of them are decks that I already have seen, like the Light Seers Tarot, Tarot of the Divine, the White Newman Tarot. They've been translated to Vietnamese though, via a Vietnamese book publisher or a deck publisher. I was also pleasantly surprised to see one book in the like reproductive or like parenting children section about how to raise kids who are LGBTQ allies. I really loved the feeling of riding around on motorcycles in Vietnam. It was really cool to be motorcycling around the place, hanging out together. Then after that rest day, we spent 3 days in the city of Saigon. My mom's family lives in District 8, so took a Grab or a ride share to go see them for the first time in like 15 years. I always enjoy like showing face and saying hi to people, but literally the first question that I was asked when I stepped into houses was like,
when are you gonna have kids?
when we haven't met for like 15 years, kind of sucks that that's like the first question that you want to ask. After that though, we and Andy's cousin and his wife went to Acoustic Bar, which had live bands playing. There were 2 different options of rooms that you could go into. One was a band playing like Vietnamese music, and another one was a band playing Western music. We went for the room with the band playing Western music. They rotated singers every few songs. The vibe the whole night was really lively and really fun. Day 2 in Saigon was our main shopping day. We went to District 2 and District 1 and bought a lot of stuff. It was really cool to see the locally made stuff from like independent designers and artists in Vietnam. In one of the shops that we went to, Reading Cabin, there was even like a section of art for like Free Palestine, with proceeds going towards like organizations that would help Palestinians. So it was really cool to see that there is still counterculture in Vietnam. There's still activism in Vietnam as well. I was also surprised to see these like introspection, emotional intelligence decks. I've seen these card decks here in the US, for example, like We're Not Really Strangers, Parents Are Human. I feel like this introspection conversation card deck thing feels so millennial. And this day, day 2 in Saigon, was the day that I met a Vietnamese tarot tuber. His name is Dear Tarot. So I found his store's address in his YouTube channel description. We rode over to his store and I basically told him like, hey, I know your channel and I'm here just because I wanted to meet you. He was super flattered. He was like, oh my God, people from overseas see my channel. And I was like, yeah, you know, when you're Vietnamese, we just want to find Vietnamese people everywhere. I asked him how many tarot decks he had in his collection and he was like, do you have time? He walked us down to the lower floor and showed me his entire tarot deck collection. It was so beautiful. There were so many decks that I recognized, like the Shadowscapes Tarot, which was his first tarot deck. It was so disheveled. He also has some Three Trees tarot decks as well. He showed me his Vietnamese tarot deck collection. I took a picture of that. He has quite a few independent / first edition copies of decks that are now mass market. So it was super cool to meet Dear Tarot and communicate in Vietnamese and tell him like how I just love his personality. It's so radiant. He also runs a coven over there. So some of his friends were also hanging out on that previous floor. And they were all dudes over there too, like 3 or 4 of them. And Dear Tarot also told me that he made his own tarot deck. I went to a bookstore and found a copy of that deck as well. And I'll show that a little bit later. The third day in Saigon City, I went to an áo dài store. Áo dài is what we call like Vietnamese traditional wear. It literally translates to like long shirt. I have wanted an áo dài of my own for ages, but I just didn't like the feminine cuts and the feminine shapes of women's áo dài. So this áo dài store, áo dài tôi, the owner, the seamstress, is my generation. She's like 33. She's been sewing for like 15 years apparently. I told her, you know, I want like a more masculine cut, áo dài, instead of like a women's cut. And she totally understood me, didn't think it was weird. So I tried on 5 different men's áo dài and really enjoyed the boxiness, the shape of it. It turns out that men's shirts have like shoulder pads in them to make them wider. It looked a little bit funny on me. It felt like it was too wide, made my head look really small. The 2 áo dài that I committed to, one of them is this red like shirt kind, chemise kind. I like how it doesn't even quite reach the knee. I just feel really good with a thigh length kind of shirt. So it's gonna be taken in a bit. The shoulders are gonna be narrowed just a little bit and the sides just a little bit to match my frame more. The other one that I committed to was this gray one. These things can be worn casually as well as for events. This red one I bought, I'm excited to wear it for events. I just think it's gonna look so good at like weddings, for example, or parties. This gray one I'm excited to wear maybe like walking around or again to events. I could also just go to the library and feel a little bit scholarly that way. Another one that really stood out to me, I didn't get it and I kind of still regret it, but kind of not, is this black and gold one. Oh my God, it looks so good. It looks really elegant and really cool. I would just feel overdressed. So digitally it's there in my mind, in my wardrobe. The next day, I went to another áo dài shop back at home base. I kind of already knew that I wasn't going to buy any of them, but I still wanted to try them on in case I was pleasantly surprised. One of the ones I tried on was very avant-garde. The other 2 that I tried on, even though they also were like mid-thigh length, they just were slimmer. The like detailing was different. I just did not feel that myself in these feminine áo dài as I did compared to the masculine ones. And one major thing I forgot to mention this whole time is that we went to Vietnam around the time of Tet or Lunar New Year. There were mua lung or dancing lions in the street, and that was just so much fun to watch. I even got to feed some of the lions too. All that babbling being done, now finally, things I bought. So we'll start with these 2 tarot decks. One of them is this one called the Tảo Tần Tarot, or I guess if you want to say it the Western way, the Tảo Tan Tarot. For the most part, I usually skip over decks that are Rider-Waite-Smith clones, aka just the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, but like redrawn with different characters. But one of the cards on the back looked so funny that I was already intrigued by this deck. This card here on the back of the box, the 2 of cups, it's these 2 frogs with their like the cups inside their butts. It's in their butt cheeks. Some of these cards really deviate from the Rider-Waite-Smith. Like this card, for example, the Death card. It is different from the Rider-Waite-Smith Death card. A lot of these other cards are Rider-Waite-Smith, but they are so funny. Their faces are so funny looking. They just have butts. That's the funniest thing about this deck. They have butts. So their poses are just really funny as well. Here's the 7 of Swords. There's like this want poster in the back here. The horses in this deck, some of them are just motorcycles. This one is like, I don't know what this is called, a horse on a stick. Yes, this Hermit is another one that really deviates from Rider-Waite-Smith. It's 2 frogs. So yeah, this deck is adorable. Maybe I will do my own flip through video of this, but also I'll link some videos flipping through this deck. That is the adorable Tảo Tần Tarot. The other deck that I bought is made from Dear Tarot on YouTube. It is called Dear's Tarot. Here it says Dear's Tarot by Dear Tarot. And this publisher, AS Books or As Books, seems like a Vietnamese tarot deck publisher. So he did this in like Adobe Illustrator, I want to say, 4 or 5 years ago. So this deck has been a long time in the making. I'll probably do a better flip through video sometime later on so that we can see this deck more clearly. I'm kind of running out of energy, running out of spoons right now to do things that are too in-depth. Also, my lash is falling off for some reason, please. But yeah, that's a quick look at the Deer's Tarot. Even if I don't end up like reading with it, it's just really cool to have a tarot deck from someone that I met in Vietnam. Okay, so that's tarot. Speaking of card decks, I mentioned that I saw some like emotional intelligence or like introspection decks in Vietnam. I bought this card deck for my friend Katie. This is like part of a collection called So Much Closer. The description says, inside this box, there are 55 cards that are designed to take a walk with you down memory lane, to have conversations about who you used to be as a child, what you used to love, and more importantly, conversations that you should have had but never did. We hope that this deck will help you bridge the gap between the child in you and the person you are today. And then this is illustrated by Eric Nguyen, and it's made in Vietnam. Another thing that I bought, there is this really cool bag designer. Their shop is called Jamlos. They're in District 2. So I bought this tote bag for my friend Katie. It's this cool olive green. Andy bought this briefcase looking bag here for his laptop, his work laptop. It looks really sturdy. I was really happy to find this like independent designer who, you know, it's a small business too. I'll also add their website in the description. Whether or not you want to buy them, you can just look at their bags too. For myself, I bought 2 bags. One of them is this tote bag. I've been really liking bags that have like this crossbody strap because I'm lazy to take off my bags when I sit in the car. When I sit down, I just want to keep my bag on. So having this crossbody strap really helps. Here is this denim themed or denim colored tote bag. It fits my planner pretty well. Here's the size there. I also bought a new kind of a messenger bag. This one's called a pocket tote bag. I just bought my own kickboxing gloves like last month because I'm getting more serious about kickboxing. So this will be helpful for like a gym bag. It can also be helpful for if I want to spend like a whole day outside. I can pack everything I need. And it's so roomy here. I no longer will wear backpacks. I like having all my stuff in front of me or to the side of me, very easy access. So yeah, no more backpacks for me, just tote bags, messenger bags. Another thing that I really loved was these miniature food cart magnets. The one that I bought for ourselves is this one, a sugarcane making cart. There are so many food carts and drink carts in Vietnam. Oh my God, it even rotates. It was really cool to see the sugarcane being like crushed through in this crusher and just really being juiced for this nuoc mea, for the sugarcane drink. This one is called Sea Soy Ngoc. It's a cart of like sticky rice making. Oh my God, it's so cute. All the little details on this are truly so good. And this is the 3rd food magnet I got. Sea Trái Cây, so it is a fruit cart. God, they're really so tiny. They're adorable. These cost like $10 US, which is relatively expensive for Vietnam standards. I think this is really worth it because the skill, the production. Another thing I got was 3 of these 10-minute bedtime stories. One of these is for me, 2 of these are for my friend Katie. They have Vietnamese and English, so they're actually bilingual. So on this side here is all Vietnamese, and then over here is all English. So this would be a really cool way to learn Vietnamese vocabulary and also experience these stories. So the 3 that I got here are folk tales, classic stories, and animal stories. Also, the like illustrations in each one are so cute. Stationery was another thing I bought a bit of. I got a bunch of different stickers and recycled paper postcards. This postcard's really cute. They're making cơm tấm, which is like broken rice. And here's this zine I bought as well. The title of the zine is Bearing the Sky. The description says, a zine about feminism in the cultural and historical context of Vietnam. I think it's a Rizzo print, and it can also be turned into a poster. And I also brought back these. So, baby 3, I now know what these are. Andy's cousins gifted me this for my birthday, which was February 7th. We had like a nice cake and they gifted me this blind box. I now understand the appeal of blind boxes. I found another blind box in store of like Lunar New Year themed baby 3s. I ended up with this cat one. They're kind of oddly cute. I actually saw them in a local boba shop in our area as well. So now I do know that they are available in the US as well. But I will resist the urge to buy more. Oh yeah, and I also bought this little headband over there. It's got little lions. And I think that's everything I wanted to talk about today. In the description, I'll put links and names of shops and things that I visited to spread awareness of these cool shops that exist. If you've traveled recently, or you will be traveling, or you like to travel, I'm curious to hear about what your experience as well. What do you look forward to? What do you plan to do? I'm looking forward to experiencing more things outside of my immediate area, immediate comfort zone this year. That's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.